Come in. Don't be afraid, child. Come on this way. You'll get to the dog.
The dog?
Yes, the dog. If you survive the encounter, that is. He draws pixel art for a video game.
Are you the dog?
Yes. Sit here, I'll tell you a terrific tale of how I made these pixel art backgrounds. Once upon a time, there was a dog, and the dog needed backgrounds for his game. He picked up his courage and started drawing pixels. He ventured into a faraway land, climbed mountains, swam across lakes, and he finally arrived at the end. And then...
He failed. What were you thinking? Look at those bars. He can't possibly make anything with those bars.
However, he tried anyway. Even though everyone told him he can't make them, he went and defied all of their expectations.
Can you stop doing this with your voice?
No, this is my normal voice.
Are you sure?
Okay, fine. The dog is me, by the way. I'm the dog, and this is my story. Okay, I'm gonna stop that with my voice. When I was thinking about how to make these, I was considering using many apps. But the one I ended up using was Sprite. Sprite is really nice. It's a cute little guy, and look at the cute pixel UI. Oh. Backgrounds are hard, take time, and are going to be cause of my death. But I reckon we can talk about them a bit here. First things first. The concept art, you don't need to make it. I didn't make it for this game specifically, but you should have a clear idea what you want and try a lot of options. It's kind of about like discovering what the forum gives you and working with that. Every game is made out of pixels, and these pixels are in a grid. It can be 256 by 224, like for the SNES, or it can be 640 by 480, like for Undertale. So how big your pixel art should be? Like, I made pixel art before, but how to make it so it all fits? If I fits, I sits. All of this depends on a game's ratio. If you're going for a retro square game, it's going to be 1:1, so the pixels are gonna be square. Most people, however, have these glowy boxes rectangle shaped and not square shaped, so we'll have to account for the 16:9 ratio, which is the most common one. For this, it's always the multiplication of the pixels. If you want to have a game that fits on a given screen, most 16:9 screens have 1920 by 1080p, or pixels, like this video you're watching actually. Take 920 by 1080 and divide it by, let's say, I'll divide it by 8. 240 by 135 pixels. In the engine of your choice, you can scale these values up back to HD, so you have a crisp pixel art screen with a specific grid. These values are quite similar to those SNES values. Reference other games, so you know what you're getting into in terms of work. The more the pixel, the more the work, obviously. So don't let me catch you doing some Owlboy pixel art over there. Unless you want to spend 10 years on a video game or are just really passionate about this specific art style. I've decided to pick the multiplication of 6. 1920 by 1080 divided by 6 is 320 by 180 pixels, which is a nice round number. I think it's detailed enough for me to work with, but not too detailed for me to become a skeleton by the time I finish a single level. The size is quite actually the same size as the levels in Celeste. I'll be making 3 levels for the game, so I'll have to carefully plan out my next steps to make my life easier. so I can make them out of tile sets.
Tile sets, is that necessary for just 3 levels?
First of all, why do you even care? And second,
Are you kidding me? Are you out of your mind?
fine, I'll explain it. Games are made out of pixels, but sometimes developers want to save time, so they clump up these pixels into tiles, and they reuse them across the level. Common sizes for these tiles are 8x8, 16x16, or 32x32, usually multiplications of 8. Oh, this again. These tile sets have different parts. Back then, there were only a couple of variations, but nowadays we use more modern or complex approaches. You'll need standard directions, transitions, but you can include additional grass, or you can have multiple of tile sets, or a lot of variations to make it more seamless. That's kind of the goal with the tile set masking. You kind of want it to feel hand-drawn, so you pay attention to these minor things. You don't want it to feel like a game on a grid, usually. In Embers of Spirit Flame, there's the background tile set, the background decals, and the front tile set. Background decals are any additional assets that can be custom added and are off the grid. Background tile sets are behind the front ones and serve as additional details for the levels. I was designing the inside of the Victorian house you've seen before, so I've decided to look up the real architecture of the similar houses to see how they're structured in terms of rooms. Of course, all of this is fictional, and I took some liberties and tried to make the environment.
Holy crap! Is that a anime face painting?
Yeah.
You don't always need to use tiles, but I would say the majority of pixel art games use them in some shape or form. You'll go through several iterations before you land on the one you really like. Just like my parents, huh? After I made the pixel art, I decided to give it some more visual flair. The flair in question being a shader. Shaders are common in 3D games, and in some 2D games as well, where they help to stylize the game a bit more. So I played with it a bit and arrived on this comic book pixel art aesthetic. Another neglected part of environment design is the color. A color can express a lot about the story and characters. Where most indies make a mistake is that they either download some pre-made assets or make their own which are strictly tied to a very generic look. Like every bookcase needs to be brown, every tree needs to be green and brown, etc. Yes, I know, this is how things look, but it doesn't matter here. What matters here is what makes the game look the best, and how it helps to express the larger story. Pixar and other studios make color scripts for their movies, for example. It's a version of the script with storyboards and vague colors to express the mood of each scene. And the mind of the character. The way the office here is purposefully made dull, contrasted against the exciting island he goes to do hero work, says so much about Mr. Incredible as a person and his worldview. He hates this. This is boring to him. He wants to help people. He wants to relive the glory days. So this is what the color in stories is about. You should think about how to use these things, not just how to make a bookcase look like a bookcase. Let's make some other art while we're at it. I want something that represents the game itself and catches the eye. So I try to play with the aspects of the game I consider more memorable. I played with the stopwatch, the flames, and I ended up landing on this portal spirit visual. The technique I used is that I took a raw level I drew in a sprite, and I started layering and drawing shapes. Then I used blending modes on them. You would be surprised what you can achieve with just blending modes and a bit of masking in Photoshop. And this is how you make pixel art backgrounds and some visuals for your game.
Thanks for the tale, Mr. Dog.
No worries. I'm glad I could tell someone about pixels, tiny like treats. Good treats, yum yum yum. Ah, I would go for
Simon!
Oh yeah, I almost forgot. It should be somewhere here. Wait here. Ah, here it is. The poll. The new poll. Today we'll vote about the name of the town that the game takes place in. The name is entirely up to you, so you can comment below your best idea, and the ones that are most liked will get onto a poll which gets started in 3 days. So stay subscribed to not miss it when it gets up. You can vote there for the best options, and the best option is gonna end up in the game itself. But now, it's time for me to go, gang. A couple in Greece can decide on their favorite drink. Is it orange juice or still water? Bye! Please consider supporting the game and the videos on Patreon. These are the wonderful people that supported me. Thank you!